Okay, so now we're going to use the steps that we've just talked about to draw Lewis structures for some simple molecules. So I've reproduced the steps that we just went over in a slightly shorthand version on the left here, so we have that reminder of what we're doing. So the first molecule that I want to talk about is fluorine, F2. So we're going to draw the Lewis structure for the fluorine molecule. So step one is always to count the valence electrons. So fluorine is in group 7 of the periodic table, but we have 2 fluorines, so that's a total of 14 valence electrons. Okay. Now step 2a says we have to sort of arrange the atoms, how we're going to bond them together. For fluorine, there's only 2 atoms, so there's really only one choice. We're going to bond each fluorine to the other one. In step 2b, we need to glue the bonded atoms together by using one pair of electrons, and I'm going to show those as dots. In step C, we're going to continue adding dots or electrons to the page, starting by putting lone pairs on the outer atoms first. So with fluorine, there's not really a central atom or outer atom. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and start putting lone pairs on the fluorines. So I want to pause for a second here and sort of make a distinction between bonding electrons. These are the glue electrons, the ones that are shared between 2 atoms, and lone pair electrons. These are the ones that only sit on 1 atom at a time. Okay, so we have bonding electrons and lone pair electrons. All right, so what we see so far is that we've gone ahead and put 8 electrons around this fluorine here, 6 as lone pairs, 2 as bonding or shared electrons. But we have 14 electrons, and the other fluorine doesn't have very many yet, so we're going to keep going. And we've used 8 so far, so I put 2 more, that's 10, 12, 14. Notice I'm putting them always in pairs. And what we see is I now also have 8 electrons around this fluorine. So I've used 14 dots. I have 8 electrons around each atom, so each atom has a satisfied octet. So this is going to be our Lewis structure for fluorine. Now the last thing that we're going to do, I'm in now step 2D, is go ahead and redraw this where we show the bonding electrons as a line. So the 2 dots in the middle that were my bonding electrons, I'm turning that into a line. But I go ahead and keep all of the lone pair electrons that I had in my structure. So this was a pretty simple molecule, F2. We have a bond between the 2 fluorines. Each fluorine has lone pair electrons on it. And the last thing we want to do is always check and make sure that first we've used exactly 14 valence electrons and that everything has an octet. So we sort of count again, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yep, and everything has an octet. So this is our Lewis structure for fluorine.